Let's say if you buy a house worth $400,000, how much would you pay? You would pay 5% as a down payment and 2 to 3% as a closing cost. So you'll end up paying around $30 to $35,000. That gives you access to 10 times that amount, more than 10 times, which is $400,000 worth of an asset. You get access to that, you get control over it, you get to do whatever you want to figuratively with it. What else can you do with that $30 to $35,000? That $400,000 asset that you're getting to control, you're learning to responsibly handle what that looks like. On top of that, when you get access to something like that, you are setting yourself up for future endeavors when you were to handle or access or control assets worth millions of dollars. So that you are basically graduating from controlling an asset worth 400 to 4 million or 400 million or 40 million, right? So that gives you that initial practice that you need. Whenever we are debating about buy versus rent, is that even a debate that we should have right now in this market? I don't think so. I'll just explain you the reasons why we shouldn't have that. Whenever you're looking at the debate of buying versus rent, if you're looking at rent, it only makes sense if you cannot buy a house right now, then you should set yourself up to do that as soon as possible. On top of that, if you have a lease which is an old lease, then it may make sense because you're paying less money that goes towards your rent. But if compared to that, if you're signing up for a new lease, the amount of money that you are just throwing away when you sign up for a new lease is an insane amount, as we already know that. So I don't think it makes sense to do that. If you can afford to buy a house and you're still renting with new leases, it doesn't make any sense. One of the other part of that debate is always about flexibility. What if you need to move in and move out in future? What would you do then? The way our rental market is set up right now and way it will be set up in future years as well, I don't think you'll have a hard time renting out what you own right now. Let's say if you buy a house, buy a condo right now, after a year, 2 years, 3 years, if you were to rent that out instead of staying there, then I don't think that would be an issue. That initial debate about what if you need to move, would it make sense? I think it will definitely make sense if you are buying right. When you are making that decision, you're not buying $1 million house as a first house, then it will definitely make sense for you. On top of that, most of the properties that you are renting right now, the owners used to pay the expenses for it, means utilities or maintenance and all the other things that goes wrong with the house. Nowadays, tenants are responsible to pay most of those things other than property taxes and maintenance. So if you are almost paying everything that you need to pay as a homeowner, why not buy a home itself, right? So that is some of my points that I point out whenever I think about buy versus rent. It helps you build equity as well. It doesn't always work out your way that you end up building equity in short term, but in long term, in 99% of cases, you end up building some kind of equity in the property or in the asset that you own. If you are buying a home and if the value goes down or up, you can make money or you can lose money. That's not necessarily true. Unless you want to sell the property or if you want to refinance, you don't necessarily lose or gain money from itself. But if you're renting, in this market, you are losing money. Renting doesn't mean that you are throwing away your money, and buying home doesn't mean that you're going to make money in short term.